let me ask you something. What if everything you think you want, happiness, security, a perfect world, what if it's all a lie? What if deep down, what we really want is chaos, suffering, even just plain old spite? That is the absolutely terrifying question at the heart of Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. It's a book that was born from unbelievable pain, and it would change literature forever. So in this breakdown, we're going underground to figure out why.
To really get this book, you first have to understand the absolute hell Dostoevsky was going through in 1864. I mean, just look at this timeline. In April, his wife Maria dies of tuberculosis. Just 3 months later, his brother Mikhail is gone too. At the same time, his business is failing, he's drowning in debt, and he is writing these pages, quite literally, sitting next to his dying wife's bed. This isn't just literature, folks. This is a scream coming from the deepest part of the abyss. And from that abyss, a voice emerges. The book opens with one of the most famous, most in-your-face lines in all of literature. I am a sick man, I am a spiteful man. Our narrator, this nameless guy who used to be a civil servant, doesn't ease us in. Right away, he tells us he's sick. And not just sick, he's spiteful, he's nasty, and he wants you to know it. So this short novel, forged in all that grief, ends up becoming the founding text of existentialism. We're talking about huge thinkers like Nietzsche, Camus, and Sartre. They were all influenced by this. And here's the real key. It was Dostoevsky's own personal despair that let him see this dark truth about what it means to be human, a truth that all the optimistic thinkers of his day were totally, completely missing. So, to understand that truth, we need to understand the intellectual fight he was picking. Dostoevsky wasn't just writing about his own misery, not at all. He was launching a full-on attack against the most popular, most fashionable idea of his time, the dream of a perfect, rational utopia. Back then, you had thinkers like Nikolai Chernyshevsky, and their argument was pretty simple. They believed that human beings are fundamentally rational. So, they thought if you just educate people and show them what's in their own best interest, they will naturally, automatically create a perfect society. The symbol for this amazing dream was the Crystal Palace, a vision of a future that was clear, logical, and perfectly harmonious. And you can see the clash right here. On one side, you have the Crystal Palace, a world of pure reason, harmony, and predictability. But on the other side, you have Dostoevsky's underground, a messy, dark place full of irrational free will, suffering, spite, and chaos. Dostoevsky looked at that utopian dream, and he didn't see a paradise. He saw a prison. And his reason for rejecting it is almost comical, sticking out one's tongue. I mean, think about it. It's childish, it's irrational, it accomplishes nothing. And for the underground man, that is precisely the point. The freedom to do something completely pointless, even something self-destructive, is the ultimate proof that he is a human being and not just some cog in a perfect machine. This whole rebellion against pure reason builds up to the book's most famous, and maybe its most difficult argument, the power of saying 2 + 2 = 5. This is where the underground man takes his fight to the absolute edge. For the rationalists, this simple little equation basically represented the entire universe. It's a cold, hard, undeniable truth. It's a wall you can't argue with. It just is. But for the underground man, this certainty isn't comforting. It's terrifying. He's asking, if everything in life can be calculated and predicted like a math problem, then where is our choice? If we are just programmed to always do the rational thing, are we ever actually free? For him, a world of perfect reason isn't life. It's the beginning of death. He's afraid that in this rational utopia, we would all become nothing more than piano keys. It's a great metaphor. You press a key, a specific note sounds. Every time. There's no choice involved. It's just a predictable response. He's terrified we'd become just like that, playing a tune written by the laws of nature, with no will of our own. And so, to prove he's not a piano key, he declares his ultimate right as a human being. He would rather stand up and shout that 2 + 2 = 5, knowing full well that it's wrong, than just silently accept a world where 2 + 2 must equal 4. That defiant, insane scream of 5 is his personal declaration of independence. So that's the philosophy. But what happens when someone actually tries to live this way? Well, in the second part of the novel, Dostoevsky gives us an absolutely heartbreaking case study, showing us the real human cost of this kind of radical freedom. So, after a really humiliating night out with old schoolmates, the underground man ends up in a brothel where he meets a young prostitute named Liza. And to make himself feel powerful, he gives her this long, manipulative speech about the terrible fate that awaits her. The catch? He admits later the words aren't even his, they're all just borrowed from books. He's not trying to save her, he's just trying to feel superior. But here's the thing, his fake bookish words actually had a real effect on her. A few days later, Liza shows up at his miserable little apartment. She actually believed him, and she's hoping he can save her. And the underground man, he completely panics, because his heroic fantasy is about to collide with his pathetic reality. So he lashes out. He tells her cruelly that he was just mocking her, that it was all a joke, but then he completely breaks down and starts sobbing. And in this pathetic confession, he blames the world, they, for making him the way he is. He takes absolutely no responsibility for his own actions. And right here, something incredible happens. Instead of being disgusted, Liza understands him. She sees past the cruelty to the miserable person underneath. And in this moment of pure, unearned grace, she just embraces him. She offers him the one thing he's always craved and always feared: genuine human connection. So why on earth does he push her away? Because for the underground man, to be loved is to be seen as helpless. To accept salvation is to admit that he needs saving. And his diseased pride just can't allow it. And so he does the cruelest thing he can think of. He presses money into her hand, degrading her beautiful act of love into a simple transaction, and drives her away forever. The underground man's story is without a doubt a tragedy. He chooses the freedom of his miserable cellar over the burden of love. But for Dostoevsky, this failure wasn't the end. It was a question that would haunt him, and one he would try to answer in his very next great novel. And you can see how he developed as a writer when you compare these two books. Just 2 years later, in Crime and Punishment, he basically repeats the scenario. You have another isolated intellectual, Raskolnikov, who meets a compassionate prostitute, Sonia. But here's the huge difference. Where the underground man rejects salvation, Raskolnikov, after a massive struggle, finally accepts it. He chooses to take her hand and begin that long, hard journey back to humanity. So, yeah, Notes from Underground leaves us with a pretty chilling question about the terrifying power of our own freedom. But it also perfectly sets the stage for Dostoevsky's life's work, the search for an answer. And that answer, that journey from the dark of the underground toward the light, well, that is the incredible drama at the heart of his next masterpiece, Crime and Punishment.